Welcome to the IronCEO rapid fire interview. In a quick rapid fire style, I'm going to ask my guests 5 questions and try to get 5 one-minute responses. My goal is to get to know these great entrepreneurial CEOs and gain insights and advice to share with you, both CEOs and first-time and aspiring entrepreneurs. We can all learn from each other's stories and challenges and struggles on the road to success. My guest today is Erez Dror. Erez is CEO and co-founder of Genda. Genda is a smartphone app that empowers construction site managers by generating and visualizing real-time data regarding their resources to more effectively and safely manage their projects. Erez, shalom, and thanks so much for coming on. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. As I said in my intro, 5 questions in 5 New York minutes. So I'd like to start and learn more about your story, right? Construction is one of the world's oldest industries, but one that spends very little on technology innovation. So what led you to actually create something in the construction tech?
That's a great question. Actually, it really relates to my personal story, so I'll give a few words about that. I'm basically a construction guy, starting my way 10 years ago from the bottom as a construction laborer, and I've been through several positions in the industry: laborer, assistant superintendent, project engineer, project manager, and at the same time, I did a bachelor's and master's in civil engineering. So I had the experience of seeing or experiencing the industry from several positions. So basically, when I was an assistant superintendent, I felt the pains of being a manager on site firsthand. I was basically trying to manage my construction project, and didn't do that well of a job. So that was the first trigger to trying to solve the pain. And when I did my master's, I was researching labor management on site, and that's when I found out that I can generate the solution for that pain, and it's a global one with managers from all over the world facing the same difficulties. So that's what led me to open Genda, basically.
That's great. So you mentioned that it's a global problem, and as I know, I visited Israel many times. It's a small country, right? Maybe 8-9 million people, and it has it's a great book I read, Advancing Your Startup Nation. According to Forbes, you get this title because Israel has the most startups per capita probably than anywhere in the world, right? So how do you take a technology that you're building in a very small company, and maybe you have some beta customers, and what are some of the challenges that you face and other entrepreneurs face in trying to bring it to other markets, whether it's the US or other countries?
So our strategy from the first day was to get to the US market, which was our target market, as quick as we can, as fast as we can. So we did start in construction project in Israel just to make sure to do the first POCs, to make sure the product is running, that our value proposition can really exist. And then we took all our efforts to the US, trying to find the first customers. The first challenges are to find those customers because we're in another continent. It was before COVID began, so I used to travel a lot to the US, reaching out to customers, meeting them there, building the relationship until we found the perfect match with Antos Construction was our first customer in the US, in Texas. So that's how it happened. And if we talk about construction tech in specific, many construction tech startups involve not only SaaS, but also hardware or something that's on site. So one of the challenges we have is to manage the operations overseas when we can't travel because of COVID-19, and we solve that by hiring people on the ground in the US. But it's definitely more challenging than just taking a plane and solving the problem first person.
Great, I can appreciate that. So again, back to Israel being startup nation, right? I'm always fascinated about the process of innovation, both inside a company and just how individual founders find their ideas. But tell me more, and tell our audience more. Why is Israel the startup nation? What is it about the air and the water or the community that makes innovation and startups such an integral part of the economy?
Wow, that's a hard one because there are many answers. I think the most common one is the Israeli chutzpah, which is basically we're not afraid to try new stuff and not afraid to send someone a message, even though it didn't hear about us and we're just a small company from Israel, and to take the leap to do something different. Maybe it's part of being things we learn in the military, because that's what you do as a soldier, and most of us had experience in the military. And another thing I can think of as a reason is Israel is very well connected. Like I know, because of the military as well, I know dozens of entrepreneurs that opened their own companies. Some succeeded, some failed, but it's something that I can find really next to me. So it's easier to, to take your career and make the shift to being an entrepreneur when you have people that you can talk with, use their advice, and use them as an example.
Great. I love that answer. So tell me from your experience so far, I believe this is your first startup, but is there any assumptions that you made that turned out to be incorrect, or mistakes that big mistake that you wish you could change, or that you would like to correct?
We make mistakes every day. That's part of the journey. I think the hardest part is to learn to live with those, and to each time you make a mistake, make sure you don't repeat it. Most of them you repeat at least once. I think if I can call it mistakes, is that developing features that are not yet tested truly in the field. So because we work remotely and our users are not exactly the same as the users in Israel, so it's a bit harder to interview construction workers and construction managers from the US. So we've developed some features for the Israeli market and then made the adjustments to the US market. And if we look at the big picture, it's a bit of a mistake. It was smarter to do the interviews before and then develop the features for the US market, because that's our target market. So it cost us in a bit of more development efforts. So I consider that as a mistake.
Okay, great. So final question. I like to ask founders to give advice to other first-time founders or entrepreneurs. So particularly for, let's say, Israeli tech founders, what advice would you give the first-time entrepreneur that they need to think about and focus on to be successful?
Find someone that you can talk with. Find a mentor, because the journey, you talk about it a lot in the IronCEO. Being a CEO is hard. It's lonely, and you experience a lot of challenges. It's an up and down road, and it's good to have someone that you can use their advice. If it's someone that had a startup of his own, maybe had an exit or failed, or both, even better, that you can share your daily problems and get their advice. So it takes you, like we say, to the ground, and keeps everything a bit more relaxed. And another advice, keep time for yourself. I like surfing, and I make sure that every time that there is waves, I find the time, even though an entrepreneur schedule is extremely busy. I make sure I find the time for exercising, doing things I love, because a startup is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and you need to keep to stay sane, basically.
Erez, that's great. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here.